What's up, riders? This is Kevin Wilson with the BMX Birds podcast coming to you today with one of my favorite guests of all time, a frequent collaborator here on the channel, a friend of the channel, a YouTuber and content creator in his own right, Mr. Danny Pena. Danny, thanks for joining me today, dude.
Hey, no problem. We haven't done one in a while. It's been, we were going to do it last week. We had some technical difficulty.
Dude, man, so stressful. Yeah, dude. So no more YouTube Live. Now we're still doing YouTube Live, but I'm going through StreamYard. So hopefully that fixes some of the problems. So,
cool.
Anyways, dude, Danny, maybe we can start out with. Can you tell me a little bit about Frogtown, dude? You want to do like a 5-minute recap on Frogtown and how that was?
Yeah, I can talk about Frogtown. Now, the one thing I noticed about this year's Frogtown as opposed to I went to all of them. So I guess there's been 4, right? So I've gone to all of them. Yeah. So what's happening now with Frogtown, I think when it first started, it was like, hey, it's like a big party. Let's all bring out the old stuff and let's race. And you see people laughing and having a good time on the track, which is great format. But now it's getting more and more and more competitive, where I'm watching guys that they take it serious, I was walking around I don't know if you probably saw my video on the last one I did. Yeah. And I actually went into staging and I was filming everybody in staging. And yeah, they're a little bit more lighthearted than they would be, like, let's say for a national, but you could still see that race look in their eyes. They're like, this is real to us. We're not here playing games. We're actually here to race. And I started noticing that, which I think is really cool, because you look at somebody like Terry Tennant, I interviewed him and he's strategizing how he's going to win Frogtown. In that interview, he was talking about the gate's flatter. I got to do more sprints. I got to get, he's like, if I'm even coming out of the gate, I'm going to win it. And so he was already thinking about ways to win it. And, you got Dale Holmes was over there, and even Greg Romero came out. And, I want to comment about Greg Romero. He brought in, I had a chance to chat with him a little bit while I was at Frogtown. And he brought some bikes that were actually his. He had some Robinsons, Auburns, all the stuff that he kind of raced in the 90s. And he won some prizes. His bikes are just perfect.
We're talking mid-school stuff, right? Like 99, 98?
Yeah. And that's where I messed up, Kev. I didn't get a chance to go to the bike show. I was so focused about getting the race footage and watching all that action that I completely gapped it. I forgot about the race show. And somebody even said in one of the comments, did you go look at the show? I was over. One guy's like, I was actually over there. And I go, man, I forgot. Oh, I totally skipped that part, and I was like, I wish I wouldn't have, because obviously I'm a big fan of the sport. I'm also a very big fan of just the bicycles themselves. I think BMX bicycles as a whole they're just beautiful to look at. I mean, if you're bike fanatics like we are, it's like eye candy to me. It's like looking at an old hot rod. And that's kind of where we're at right now, realistically, if you think about it, because the guys that go to Frogtown are pretty much like our dads that would drag us to the car shows to go look at all the 50s and 70s and 50s, all the old hot rods. Now we're doing it with our, BMX stuff or whatever.
Have you ever thought about racing?
Not so much, because I want to go there and just have fun. I don't want to be stressed out about actually racing, and I want to be able to go and film and do all that. I know if I go to race, I'm going to be all in my head about racing and being nervous about racing, and I'm not going to be thinking about filming. So, and also, man, I looked at the track and I go, I don't know, man, I don't want to fall on that. The surface of the track, there's a certain point where I'm videoing and I'm looking straight down with the camera, and it's literally loose rocks and dirt. I mean, it's like a motocross track.
Really?
Yeah, you need knobby tires. You're not going to be able to go down there in your Diacomp street sort of tire, or those power blocks. You're just going to slide around everywhere. You need a Comp 3 or just an old school knobby tire, because it's real dirt, man. And there's flat turns, and I saw a lot of people slipping and sliding. I saw a lot of crap.
If you were to race, would you race your cruiser or would you race a 20? What would you race if you were to race?
Oh, I'll definitely race the 20. Yeah, I would probably bring my Skyway out and race that one.
And what year your Skyway? Is that the original one or is it repop?
I got a repop, so I'd probably have to race a certain class because yeah, it's a Skyway, but it has modern geometry and it has modern parts on it. So there's certain, I don't know how they break the classes down, but you can see there's 70s bikes, pre-84 bikes or 83 or something, and they break it all like that. The thing I was really impressed with though is I got a chance to talk to Dale Holmes a little bit, and I said, "Hey man, I'm Danny. Nice to meet you." He goes, "Oh, I watch your stuff. You got some good stuff." And I go, "Well, he got me all inspired to do this because he was one of the first BMX podcast guys, one of the original ones."
Yeah.
And anyway, we were chatting, and I'm like, "Man, you're up on that hill over and over again, man. How are you like recovering?" And he goes, "I'm not." He's going down the first straight and just hanging on, and he was riding really good though. He was on a probably like a 97 GT box series bike. I think he was riding one of those, and he brought out one of his own bikes too, which I Divide, that he does chrome molly frame and fork called a Divide. Sweet bike. He was out there on that, and he was looking really good. And I didn't see the Pro-Am final because it happened on Sunday and I was there on Saturday, but I ended up watching the video on it, and Terry got the snap. He looked like he was going to defend the title, and he got passed by a kid. I forgot his name. He's only 21, and he was riding on a retro sort of cruiser, like an 80 cruiser. But he's a good rider.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that video. I think Terry's slipped a pedal by the tree or something.
Yeah, he did drop a pedal, and I think Mike Miranda mentioned that in the Dirty Knobs podcast. He said, "Hey, to Terry's point, he did drop a pedal. So if he hadn't dropped the pedal, he probably would have held him off." And Terry's 56, and he was looking really fast. Out there.
Yeah, he looks like he looks like he does now when he was 18. His physique's pretty good.
Yeah, that's definitely his wheelhouse, man. That sort of format of racing. So he does really well on it, and he's not afraid to go down that hill, full blast. Where a lot of people are a little bit, hesitant to open it up because that starting hill. I mean, I filmed it looking down it, and I was like, wow, man, it's not for the weak of heart. You gotta go all out, man. It takes you into kind of a sweeping turn. So you're going to go down the first straight, and then it kind of sweeps as far as a flat turn and takes you into the next set of jumps. And so it takes a different set of skill set, I think. And that's one thing that I was really impressed with a lot of the younger guys that were riding, which I would consider like modern day racers. They were out there riding and they were doing well. So I think it would be it'd be great if USA BMX had a series where they just did an old school track. It doesn't have to be as extreme as Frogtown, but something that's going to require them to pedal. You got maybe one or two obstacles on one straightaway. And I would just like to see that sort of format to kind of test the ability of today's riders, because we already they could pump and they could manual. They're super athletes, man. I don't have the skill level these kids have, but I would love to see what they would do in a scenario where you're going to have to pedal, you're going to put your foot down, and the old school type of riding. It would be cool to see maybe even a series like that if possible. If that makes sense. Anyway.
I have the same quandary that you do or whatever, because I want to race Dirty Fest, but then I don't want to. We get stressed out. I want to absorb. I want to enjoy the day or the days, and so I'm still trying to decide if I want to race or if I want to just maybe get some content and meet some people. So I still haven't decided what I want to do.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Dirty Fest this time around myself. So hopefully, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
And I don't really plan on racing either, but yeah, part of me, the racer part of me goes, man, I wish I was out there racing away. But yeah, I'm like, nah, I think I'd just relax and watch it. And Terry said the same thing. And in my interview, he said, after this one, I think I'm going to retire from that. He said, I'm just going to go and watch, because he said exactly what I'm saying. I just want to enjoy the event and not so much stress out about winning. But I don't know, man. He's such a competitive guy. I doubt he's going to sit I don't think he's going to see.
Yeah. No doubt.
You know,
No
we'll
doubt.
see.
Well, anyways, dude, thanks for that update on Frogtown. I appreciate that, dude. And for those of you who don't know what Frogtown is, it's a vintage BMX race / extravaganza in the middle of nowhere in Northern California, right?
Yeah, it's Angels Camp, California. I
How
got
are you
this shirt from there, not last year, but not this year, but the year before. And this is Andy Patterson's shirt. And so I met him there and I go, "Oh, you got some shirts?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he pulls them out and I go, "Oh, that's really cool, you know." And I go, "Do you take ATM or debit cards?" I don't, no cash on me.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's like, "No." And he was cool though. What he did was he goes, "Just text me your address. I'll mail it to you, and you can just send me the money for it." So I was like,
Nice.
"Cool." So that
Nice.
worked out. You know, so
So,
it's a
for
really
those of you that are new to the channel, we like to go over BMX in a certain year. And Danny has his own BMX channel where he reviews magazines from the 80s. And that's what we kind of do. That's our thing. And so Danny is going to bust out one of his magazines. We're going to go through it. We're going to reminisce, talk about what's in the magazine, the ads, and what we think about what's stuff on. And for those of you that are curious about Danny's channel, I will be leaving a link to his channel in the description of this video when we're done. I suggest that everybody goes and checks him out. We have a friendly competition of who gets more subscribers. But we're gonna get more subscribers. Anyways, what year do we have today, Danny? What month? What? Go ahead.
Put your advice on something really quick though, because you said, "Dude, you need to name your channel." And so now it's Danny Pena BMX Racing. I made it real basic, but it used to be like my name and then 2673 name. And I go, okay, you know, Kevin's right. I need I eventually like to get some of those like stickers made or some t-shirts made that have my YouTube handle on it. So I can put it on my car or wear the t-shirt or something. And I go, I got to come up with something people are going to remember, you know. So anyway, that was all I can come up with at the time. So
you know, there's another Danny Pena that has a channel, and coincidentally enough, when I want to find your channel, that's exactly what I search. I put Danny Pena BMX, not racing, but I just put BMX. But there is another Danny Pena, not BMX related though, but there is another channel out there.
I think
anyways,
is he a soccer player or something? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. So what year, what month, what are we doing today? What you got for us, bro?
Okay, so this one's lacking a cover, so I apologize. But we're going to go to October 1984. BMX Action. BMX Action is probably my favorite. And the cover on the cover though, it had Mike Buff on it, so it was obviously a freestyle cover. And in this magazine, they're going to go over the Murray World Cup, which is big time money. The Murray World Cup, because I know I had talked when I was talking to Terry. It wasn't this year, 1984. He wasn't pro yet, but he told me he picked up like 30 grand racing that race. So it's like some serious cash on the line at the Murray World Cup. Something unfortunately we just don't see, you know, in today's sport, you know. And we'll talk about this one later. This is just a recent issue of Cool Magazine. Okay, let me crack it open. All right, so right away, man, let's talk about this really quick. Haro was really becoming really big, 84, 85, and they started releasing their freestyle line of bicycles. So this is Bob Haro's thing, and I know that Torker, he partnered up with Torker, and they were starting the whole thing with the Haro freestyle bikes. He had like the first actual freestyle bike. I personally have never ridden a freestyle bike. I've been around them. I know they're heavy. I know they don't feel like a race bike, so it's never really been my thing. How do you feel about the freestyle bike? Did you ever play around with those at all?
No, but I did a lot of freestyle on my race bike though. I never rode at least not as a child or a young adult. I've ridden a freestyle bike as a full blown adult now, but yeah, I never really. Well, is that true? You know, I think we kind of like. I think I had a PK Ripper and I got some standing gear forks and some front brakes. And that type of thing, but that's about it. I never had like a multi-top bar, multi-top two frame, or no frame standards and other stuff.
Yeah, you're a bike collector. I know that about you. I've watched enough of your channel to know that you're an expert at finding and buying and selling and trading.
Trying, yeah.
So is there a lot of value in the freestyle bikes versus the race bikes, or do you feel the race bikes carry more value? Where do you think that?
It's a
Where do you think?
totally different world, dude. The guys that race don't freestyle, and the guys that freestyle don't race, and it's a totally different group of people.
Mhm,
The freestyle guys are just as crazy and just as eager to spend money as the race guys.
mhm.
And it all depends about the bike, the frame, and the hot one is obviously the pro performers from the 80s, um,
Okay.
that type of thing. But do you know why? Do you know why? I think I know the reason why Bob Harrow stopped working with Torker and went to his own. Do you know why he stopped using Torker as a frame?
Mm, I think they went out of business. Is that
I I think that it's because because Torker is related to Max Leathers, and then when Bob started making his own leathers, they got pissed off
Um,
at him. So
that,
they cut him off, and there was a big problem, and then he went on and started his own frame company. But
what?
anyways, I think that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
What?
gonna
So
go
what
with that too.
do you like freestyle bikes? I mean, I
Personally,
can appreciate them. I mean, do you like them?
I'm in the same boat as you are. I look at them and I go, "Oh, those are really cool." I know that a lot of Mongoose just dropped a retro freestyle bike, and there's a guy I watch on YouTube. I forgot his channel, man. I'm really sorry, but he looks at all the old '80s retro stuff, and he just brought out a purple and white one, and he had a bunch of flatline guys playing around with it in his recent video. I think that's pretty cool, but
Yeah.
because I'm a racer, for me, I wouldn't. I'm not in the market for freestyle bikes. Even if I was to get a big 29 incher, it'd probably be more race related than a freestyle related bike. I just never was my thing, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I had one of my good scores. I scored a performer really cheap from my buddy in the Marine Corps. And
Yeah.
if you're, anybody that wants to watch that video, it's on my channel. Um, it's one of my scores. It's a Malibu blue performer. I think it's an 86. You could go on my channel, check it out, and you'll hear the story about how I almost got screwed out of that bike. But yeah, do freestyle. It's a totally different animal. Those guys are crazy. What I don't like is when they over restore the bikes, man. Like I don't know.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this guy Duro the Bird or Duro the Herd or something on Instagram? Have you seen this guy?
No,
Like
I've not.
crazy, like shiny, like re-chromes everything to like it's like man, nobody ever rode these bikes like this back in the day. So that's my only concern with some of the freestyle guys out there where they over restore their bikes and it's just not. It was never like that before.
I see. I almost feel like there might be more value in the race bikes only because there's just racing just was a much larger span than the freestyle windows like this, where racing just goes on and on. Although now we have dirt jumping and vert and all that. There it still happens, but
Yeah.
it's a whole different beast, like you said. Let's talk about this really quick. I got an ad here for Team Murray Bicycle, and I want to say that I don't know who the writer is there. I would guess that's Scott Clark if I had to make a guess on that. Is
Yeah.
there any value to collecting these store brand bicycles like Murray and Huffy? Is there value there? Do you think for that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not huge money, but actually, that's what I'm into now. I'm into old Huffies, old Murrays, and that type of thing. And actually, I sold my old Huffy to Mike Miranda before
Did
Dirty
you really?
Fest, and it was a monoshock, and I love monoshocks. So yeah,
Oh,
there are people out there that collect those things, and there is some money in that. And so yeah, I like the old Murray. I mean, before when I first started, no one wants a Murray, right? Ah, dude, fuck that Murray. I don't want that Murray. But yeah, there's some guys that collect Murrays out there.
yeah, I would think there's a market for everything because
Yeah,
let's face it, not everybody raced, but everybody rode bicycles. So
yeah,
if you get something that reminds me of your childhood, it could be a Murray,
yeah.
it could be a Pro Thunder or whatever it was.
The
I
funny, the
personally,
funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Now, I was gonna say the funny story about that is after Mike Miranda was the first person I didn't know that I interviewed way
Yeah,
back like 2.5 years ago. and I reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to come on the podcast. He was a little bit. It was like a month before the first Sturdy Fest, and
Okay.
I interviewed him, and then we the next day I had my Huffy monoshock on offer up for like a year, and no one wanted it. And then the very next day after I interviewed him, he sent me a message saying, "Hey, dude, I want to buy your Huffy." So funny part about it is, and then I after I sold it to him, I had regrets. I was like, "Oh man, I don't want to sell it, man. I don't want to sell it. Are you sure you want to buy this thing?" So yeah, my Huffy monoshock ended up with Mike Miranda, and so anyways,
Yeah,
that's my shock
having
story.
collectible bikes that I've let go or is definitely something I revisited my mind a lot, because I had my original Skyway, I had a early 80s PK Ripper. I really wish I would have kept that one. I did a lot of racing on that one. My RO RS1, I wish I would have kept that. And the list just kind of goes on, just stuff, the things that we thought just didn't have any value to us anymore. We just either
Yeah.
sold it cheap or traded it off or even gave stuff away. I had a CW24, I had a CW20. I've had a bunch of different bikes that I go, man, if I would have just only held on to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
we didn't know. We had no idea.
A funny Murray story.
Yeah.
I interviewed a gentleman 2 days ago from Burbank, and he started his own sanction. Philip Latham. He started his own BMX sanctioning races in Burbank in like 1972, like
Wow.
before the Yamaha Gold Cup, before Redline even existed. And he
Mhm.
told me a story about Murray found out about his races, and they approached him, and they wanted to give him $10,000 to sponsor the races. And
Wow.
this is before Murray even made a BMX bike. They were making 10 speeds. And he told me, nah, man, I didn't want to sell out. We didn't want to take the money. I'm all, you're crazy, dude. Well, you should have took the money. Murray probably went over to Scott Breithaupt and gave him the money.
Yeah, I
But
would
can
have
you imagine?
did.
He was 15. He was 15 years old, and he was running his own races in the Burbank foothills. And he told
Wow.
Murray to stuff their $10,000. What a stud!
Wow.
Anyways, go ahead, bro. Sorry, man.
Respect that.
I had to give a shout out to Phil.
We got a Diamondback turbo test in this one. This is pretty cool. Eddie King's in here. Kurt Crisco's in here. They're tearing it up. Now, this is one of and you and I have spoke about the Diamondback turbo before, and it's probably one of the one of the more high-end completes that you can buy. And you can see right here, you can got a good shot of Captain Kirk here tearing it up on a fully stocked Diamondback turbo, which is not a very big bicycle.
Yeah.
But it's all we had at the time. And these are the cranks that you had mentioned specifically that you love.
Yes.
Yeah. So this complete bike, like you and I spoke about before, it retailed for $495 at the time. So you figure in today's money, it's like what, $1,500 bike maybe?
Yeah.
I'm guessing, yeah. But it has a lot of good components on it. As you can see, even your favorite grips, those B1Bs.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember our conversations because I've rewatched their videos, and then
Yeah.
here's the thing: the specs of the complete build. Not too bad. Top tube
Yeah.
you can see is very big, but right out of the box, you can't get much better than this bike.
My brother had a Harry Larry turbo for a while, and we had dinner yesterday, and we were talking about his bike over dinner, and he's like, dude, that bike was so damn small. It was a trick looking bike, but it was small. And he reminded me, because I told him how much I loved the cranks, and he goes, dude, those cranks sucked, man. They were good looking, but it didn't have it didn't have a pinch bolt, I guess, and it had the regular square
Bolt.
what's it called, the spindle. It wasn't like
Okay.
a multi spindle. So he goes, dude, I cracked the spindle after like a week, man. I had to keep replacing my spindles on those bikes, on those cranks. So anyways, he rained on my Diamondback Harry Larry turbo parade. But
Well,
yeah.
he's not far off. I mean, because the bike itself wasn't that big, but none of them really were. It's 24 pounds 6 ounces, which is surprising to me. I wouldn't have thought it was that heavy.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. I mean, out of the box, you wouldn't need to do anything. Now we talked about this before, and I'm just going to go back over it again. Oakley has the greatest ads. These are for the goggles. And the last time we looked at an Oakley ad, it was for the grips. And I mean, just look at that.
Beautiful.
That's just so well laid out, man. I have so much respect for the time and effort they put into these ads. Like I told you before, it's something that I would never even have paid attention to.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're going to grab the eye of a teenager and you see these mirrored lenses here, you're going to be like, oh, whoa, those are super trick. I got to have them.
Yeah.
And that's how they did it. We all fell for it, you know.
Did I tell you my story about the Oakley yard sale? I think I did.
I think you did, yeah.
Well,
I remember it, and I know you remember it.
Jim, I'll touch on Oakley. Jim Gennard, the founder of Oakley, lived in the same city that I did, South Pasadena, California. And one day, my dad found his yard sale, came back home, and woke up my brother and I and told him, get up, we're going to a yard sale. So my brother and I had a couple bucks, went over to Jim Gennard's yard sale at South Pass, and I bought a Generation 1 pair of goggles, the Oakley 1 grips, and a couple of different things. My brother got a hat, and so we got some grips, and there were motorcycle grips actually. So when we put them on our bikes, we had a black tape around one of the handlebars so the grip wouldn't fall off. But yeah, that's my Oakley story where I met Jim Gennard in, like, I don't know, it was probably like 76, maybe 75, something like that.
Hey man, they're going way back.
Yeah.
Way back. What did you think about JT Racing products?
I love JT Racing, dude.
I never owned a pair of the JT leather, but man, their stuff was so trick.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't know about those shoes though, but their other rest stuff was good.
Yeah.
Is there a pair of shoes in there?
Yeah, those Velcro shoes that would look like somebody would be wearing like a rest home.
Oh, dude, those are ugly as hell, man.
Yeah, but the interesting thing are the wet weather gloves. It's hard to do this upside down, but they're right here, and those are the ones you were talking about previously.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, with the dots.
Yeah, with the dots on them. Yeah, I had a pair of those too, and so as I look through these magazines, it's kind of surprising to me how much stuff I actually had. I'm like, oh, I had that mouth guard, I had that Jope, I had that helmet. It's just weird when you think about it over the years, you know.
Do you remember we talked about JT on our first video? Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I'm revisiting a lot of our stuff. So yeah.
Can I share what JT stands for with the audience? Do you mind?
Yeah, it's your show.
for those out there that have heard of, we've all heard of JT Racing, and I had in our first conversation, I had a little nugget of information that I had read somewhere that JT Racing actually came from TJ Racing. I guess there was a gentleman that was a pharmacist, and him and his wife started importing socks from Tijuana and selling them at motocross races. And once the business started blowing up a little bit, they needed to come up with a name for their company. And I think the husband came up with TJ Racing. And then the wife goes, no one's going to buy nothing that says TJ Racing on it. Just switch it to JT Racing. And that's what happened. And that became JT Racing. For those out there that like trivia, JT Racing.
Is that still in existence at all? I noticed that when I was at Frogtown. Yeah, I saw people wearing JT pants that looked relatively new to me. And I'm like, where did they get those?
I think they're still in the motocross for sure.
Yeah. So I was like, where did they get? I mean, it caught me off guard. I'm like, are those JT? Because I mean, everybody wears fly gear. I wear fly gear. So I'm like, where did they get those? You know? And I got this buddy on Facebook. His name's Woody. And he was actually racing for Arrow for a short period of time. I think he was the only rider they had. He's a pretty nice guy. And Arrow kind of came back and he started wearing all their gear, and they were custom making leathers, and then they shut it down again. And I was like, oh man, I reached out to him like, oh, I need a pair of Skyway pants, but they were making the retro looking Haro pants with the little chevrons on the knee.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, I want a pair of those, and I want them to say Skyway down my leg. And he goes, oh yeah, we can get them for you once we start going back, get things going again. And then it just unfortunately, they shut it down again.
What's the story with Arrow? I know nothing about Arrow. What's that? What's their story? Where were they from? What did they do? I don't even know.
Arrow didn't manufacture bicycles, but they had a lot of the race gear. So a lot of the major companies like CW, Diamondback, they're all running Arrow pants. So if you think back in the 80s of what was everybody wearing, you got 09 gear, you got Haro gear, Max gear, Arrow gear. They were up there with all those guys that were making the pants.
Did they make plates?
I don't think so. No.
No. Okay. All right.
But I know that I specifically remember the pants. I definitely do. There's a huge equipment guide in here. We won't go over all this because it's just too much to look at. But surprisingly, there's a lot of complete builds that are available. And when you think about today, there's really not a lot of race bikes that come complete unless you're going to look at like an entry level. I know Chase Bicycles has quite a bit you can choose from, all the way up to their high end race level bikes. And that's something that I kind of miss because sometimes you just want to get it complete and then you can just start building it from there. But also you have the flip side of it where you get the frame and fork and just do everything yourself.
Yeah.
Which gives you that custom look. I like both ways. I've never really. I can't say I prefer one over the other. But it's cheaper to get a complete build.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. You probably know.
Have you ever watched this dude from BMX Breakthrough?
No. What's his deal?
So I've seen his channel a couple times. It's a pretty good channel, but I saw a clip that he posted on Instagram, and it was very telling. I was like, dude, I totally agree with that, because he was talking about building bikes and restoring bikes and that type of thing. And he made a comment that I thought was pretty insightful, where he said that he goes, I don't know why everybody wants to get the bikes back to where they were originally came from the factory and stuff like that. Because anybody, the first thing that you did when you got the damn bike, you changed it. Like day one, you said nobody wanted a stock bike, no matter how good the bike was. The first thing you did was change the parts, and that's why he was talking about, why he didn't, when he builds a bike or restores a bike, he doesn't get it back to how it came from the factory. That because no one rode a stock bike. Unless you were a little kid, but even then, you changed the bike.
Yeah. I think immediately you go, oh, I don't like these grips, and then I want a different pad set, and I want to change the seat, and before you know it, man, it used to drive my parents nuts, because I remember they got me a complete bike when I first started racing, and I kid you not, man, I'm talking within a year, it was a completely different bike. I think the rims were the only thing left. Everything slowly changed until you're completely riding something completely different. So maybe building a custom bike is the best way to go. I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got CW has their own freestyle bike out. This frame, I'm very confused by that. I don't like the geometry on it and the frame design itself. It looks kind of like a shopping cart. I don't know what CW was thinking. Maybe it just gives them a good platform to stand on.
That's an ugly bike, dude.
Yeah, and I don't remember anybody technically riding this. I think about the CW freestyle guys, and I think they were just on customized race bikes, that give them that whole freestyle look. At least that's the way I look at it. We got GT Mach 1. And speaking of GT, so this is the GT Mach 1 and this ad. And you know who's building some really trick GTs is the Sean from Rad BMX Builds. I don't know if you follow him at all. And
yeah, I've seen his stuff.
YouTube. Yeah, he just built a custom yellow one, and I was just checking it out today while I was working. Anyway, I had it on for a little while, and I was like, God, this guy, he's picking up co-sponsors now. So like Amy Grips is supplying him the grips. I think he's got to deal with flight pads and things like that because his builds are so trick. Some of the stuff I look at and I go, I wouldn't have done it that way. But 90% of the time, I'm like, he's spot on. That looks awesome.
But he's one of the guys that over restores his stuff, don't you think? All of his stuff is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. You don't. Funny you said that, because on the Amy Grips on the bar end, he won't even have it upside down. He wants it like facing like this. The triangle has
Yeah.
to be perfect. And I mean, that's show quality stuff that he builds, though. It's a little
Yeah.
different, you know,
Yeah.
for
They're different tastes, but yeah, he goes way, 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 way to the extreme when it comes to restoring bikes.
Yeah, he does, man. It's tough, but I mean, I like him because he focuses a lot on race bikes, and he gets his hands on some great stuff.
Yes, he does.
We looked at the Diamondback ads before, but I just wanted to give you another example of why Diamondback sold so many bicycles. I mean, look at
Yeah.
that. That's 2-page ad, man. And I mean, the whole factory team is on there. And it really made you as a kid want to be a factory rider. Although I don't know what percentage of guys that race BMX actually make it to factory. It's probably something around like less than
Point
10%.
point oh 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 one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a very small number of guys that actually make it to that level. I don't know if you remember racing. Did you ever have a factory rider just kind of show up and do gates or anything like that? Have you ever experienced that?
No, I
Really?
never. I no, I never. Dude, here's the funny part, because I grew. I mean, I raced in Azusa, California, the hotbed. If it
Yeah.
wasn't, if it wasn't Corona or Orange Y in Southern California, Azusa was
Yeah.
definitely up there in the top 5. And
Okay.
I don't remember why I'd ever raced anybody famous. I don't remember racing
Mhm.
anybody famous. I don't remember seeing anybody famous at the track.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't. I never have.
I got to tell you, it's a really strange experience because I raced in Northern California. My local track was Sonoma BMX, and but man, every once in a while, somebody would just show up, and it's weird to see somebody from a magazine. Like one time, I Justin Green showed up, and he actually raced, and everybody was like, "I know all these kids are afraid. Justin's here." He was factory Diamondback. He just showed up out of nowhere,
Yeah,
smoked everybody home. A lot of times they just practice and leave. But I
yeah.
seen Rick Palmer showed up, and he was training one day, and Charles Townsend was there training, and I was like, golly, it's weird seeing these guys in person at your local track. It's just a different sensation. It's like you just know they're kind of elite in a sense, where we're all just kind of the average Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
and
don't get me wrong. I mean, there were famous. There were guys that were on my track that became famous, but
okay,
when when I was there, they weren't necessarily famous. Like Matt Hayden was there, Jason
mhm,
Donnell was there, Sam Arlano was there. There's other types of kids that were there, but they weren't like uh, Mike Luna was there. So there were kids that were famous that became famous, but
yeah.
it wasn't like Greg Hill showed up one day or Stu showed up one day or anything like that.
Wow, because those are you just named off a lot of good a lot of great riders
But
that were at your
they were all little. I mean, they were all like 6, 7, 8-year old kids. You know, and they weren't
yeah.
like unfortunately, I didn't look up to them at the time. Like, oh my gosh, Mike Luna's here. Whatever. But anyways,
There
yeah.
was a time I remember I was really new to the sport. It was early '83, and Jason Jensen showed up, and he came with a TV crew. It was a TV show called Super Kids, and they did a whole segment on him while he was there racing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was weird. I go, holy shit, that's Jason Jensen, and I've only seen him in magazines, and he was all of a sudden he was just there racing.
Torker.
So
He was on the Torker Jason Jensen, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was on Twitter, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a really cool experience, man.
He was
I
at
just
he was at he was at Dirty Fest. I didn't even recognize him.
oh, you saw him at Dirty Fest?
Yeah, he was at Dirty Fest. So he was signing autographs. I asked James. I go, who's that, dude? He goes, that's just Jason Jensen. Oh shit, really? Okay. I think he signed my jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer that never turned pro. He just
Really?
dominated as a amateur. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
So that's this ad right here. I've got mixed feelings. I like Zap pads, but I don't know how I feel about this. Just straight bars on here. Have you ever seen these?
What is it?
This is from Zap pads, and now Brian Patterson was sponsored by him at the time. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, Zap pads. You and I talked about it before. They were the lightning bolt on there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ugly. Ugly.
I think they were trying to do different things to try to be competitive. because the paint game was pretty big, man. You had like, I think, what was it? Flight pads were really big. California Light.
California Light, man.
Yeah, California Lights are really big. And, prior to that, we have like rad pads. I don't know if you remember rad pads. They're
sure, yeah,
the vinyl ones that snap. And
yeah.
so, had you ever used the vinyl ones that snap? Have you ever used?
Oh
those?
yeah, dude. When I got my Jag in '79, I had Jag yellow Jag pads. And the frickin' snaps always pull out of the vinyl, and then you end up wrapping the black insert with black tape to keep it on, dude. Yeah, definitely.
It's weird how
the snaps rust around the edges before it pulls out. Yeah,
they rust and they break, and it's weird how things evolve. Because if you think about the whole thing, we had the vinyl pads, kind of chunky looking pads, right? Then we get to the white pads, which is a real light styrofoam, and the Velcro. So now that they've evolved, and now we don't
even wear Ryzen pad.
Yeah, and which I think is a mistake. Not so much for the protection of it all. Sure, it helps, because if you ever hit your knee on your stem, that hurts. If you have a pad there, it helps a little bit, But I know that I was reviewing a race. It was the '83 Jag World Championship, and it had they were doing a side angle of the gate, and it was the older experts. I think it was like 17 over X, and they were all lined up, right? And as you're looking down the gate, you can see all their pad sets advertising exactly what it is they were riding. And I looked at that and I thought, that is so trick looking. It's just too bad that that's just not a thing anymore.
Do you remember just those 3 rubber pads together probably weighed 5 pounds?
Oh, yeah.
Those things were so heavy, dude. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they were so heavy.
Yeah, the California Lights, they were nothing. They weighed nothing.
Yep.
But still, I just thought it looked super trick. Now it's just not a thing anymore. What do you think about uni seats? I see one little ad here for a uni turbo seat. Have you ever experienced that?
I rode them.
How did you like it?
Yeah, it's fine. I preferred the one that you just showed me rather than a flat one, but I rode both of them.
Yeah, I had both of them. I had the uni turbo, which was this one. That was the last one that I owned, and actually had got the PK Ripper frame and fork, and the seat stay was a little bit too narrow for the uni. It just didn't fit. So my bright idea was to file it down, and then I made it fit. Looked good and it worked until one day I hit a jump and landed on my seat and just broke right off.
Yeah,
it just
the only downside I have to that is I rode my seat very high, and you can't ride your seat very high with the uni seats. Just not because I thought they were weak or nothing like that, but just for they didn't come very long. I think in that picture, I think it was only like that long or something. They weren't that long coming from the factory.
I think there was a warning line that was on the uni seat that said do not lower than this or higher than this. Yeah. So that's probably a disadvantage for you. Yeah. How did you feel about the seat positioning? Me and Terry talked about it, and I said, Terry, I noticed you still run your seat high. Does that get in your way? And he goes, no, because he said the whole time I've been racing, I've always been behind the seat. And he said that he would actually have his chest on the seat, and it would stabilize him. So he said, having the seat up makes no difference to me at all. And me, I don't drop my seat down to the frame anymore. It's at least a couple inches off the top of the frame. Mainly because when I'm sitting down at the gate, I tend to sit down. I tend to start balancing in the sitting position as opposed to like standing up right away. So I'm sitting down, I'm getting calm, I'm finding my balance, and then I stand up and get in my race position, and which is kind of like this angle. But I have to have the seat up, because if it's all the way down, I'm like this. It just looks weird. It feels weird. I don't know how these guys do it, but they all do it.
For me, it was like a border between my legs for myself. So even when I was in the gate, I would rub my right leg against the right side of my seat, and I'd kind of get it. I kind of twist my foot into the pedal, and my right leg would rub against my seat, and then I knew if I was in the turn or I was passing, I would lean on that. I'd lean on the edge of my seat, and it would take me through the turns, and that's why I rode my seat high.
No, that's 100% correct. That was a balance point. Having the seat against your inner thigh, you can feel it and keep you stabilized a little bit.
Yeah,
but the riding style is super different now. So I know you haven't raced in I think recently, right? So going on a modern day track, most of the turns are paved, so you carries your speed through. So you don't necessarily have to worry about. You could still slide out, but you don't have to worry about it as much. Yeah. So in our day, you had to be careful because if they didn't sweep the berm, there could be loose dirt and it could take you very easy. You know? So
and plus, I was notorious for getting in front and just sticking my leg out, sitting on the seat and sticking my right leg out and just literally not let anybody pass me. That was one of my favorite moves, man.
That's you
could kick their frame. You could do all kinds of stuff. You could buzz their front tire. And if you timed it right, it was fun. Yeah.
See, you're making me think of like the old racing techniques, like, and hey, cutting people off or, cutting over really quick out of the gate was normal. So like you could be sitting lane 8 and then you could just, if I got a good pop, I was immediately pushing the whole pack over to the inside so I can position myself.
Yeah, dude, then I just stick my leg out and, no one gets by, man.
That's funny, man. You're making me think about that. Here's a great shot of the Murray World Cup. This is some of the greatest guys of the time out there. I could see John Cruz in there. I'm looking at it upside down. Rob Fade's in there. It looks like one of the Patterson brothers, Gary Ellis. This is just a great shot. You can see the crowd in the background from the room behind.
Where was that at? What track? What state? Whatever.
Let's take a look here. Murray World Cup. I'm not seeing. It's an IBMXF race, but I'm not seeing where it was, unfortunately. But Dixieland. Is that Tennessee?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that was a Dixieland track.
Yeah, that sounds right. Tennessee. Yeah.
It says, oh wow, they had $25,000 up for grabs for the total pro purse. That's pretty crazy, huh?
That's pretty good.
1984. So I mean, honestly speaking, man, if you're like I think this is how Terry said he made a lot of money at this. Is he did well in I think he tripled. He said I won class, open, cruiser. So you said you can't triple anymore as a pro because there is no pro open and there's no pro cruiser anymore. It's just pro, And I talked about that a little bit in my last video. I did a video review for some actual races, and I watched last weekend's race that was in North Carolina. I went over that. I just watched the pro finals, and I mentioned that too. There's just pro and women's pro and vet. That's it. There's no in between. So like there's no rookie class in a sense. You know what I mean? You're just going to jump to the field. They have something called Super X, and I'm thinking that's probably more or less rookie pro, but there's probably money involved in that. At least I don't think there is. I have no idea. These shots are great. I'm just going to share a few of them for you. I think that would be Brent Romero right there. I'm guessing on Diamondback. And then we got Ronnie Anderson down here. He's looking really good. I don't know if you could see it.
Yep.
This is a great shot of Mike Polson. Yep. I love Mike Polson's riding style. He was a beast, huh?
Yes, he was.
Great shots. All right, let's see what else we got. And we got Mike Miranda and Brackens. I posted this photo on one of the, I think it's one of those 80s Facebook groups. Man, it must have got 1,000 likes. People love that photo. And everybody was going crazy about it.
They're brothers from different mothers and fathers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Well, Mike Miranda won pro money, which I'm assuming is class. So he won that. Pete Lonkarovich picked up the second. Greg Hill, Eric Group, Tommy Brackens, Anthony Sewell, Mike Polson, and Toby Henderson. That's pretty stacked gate. And then for a pro cruiser, Ronnie Anderson won pro cruiser, and Greg Hill picked up second. So Greg probably made some good money, man, because he got second in Pro Cruiser and third in class. But Lonkarovich, he took second in class and third in cruiser, so they kind of swapped positions
Yeah.
for them. Pro Open, Ronnie Anderson doubled. He won the Pro Open, so that's really cool. And then Brian Patterson picked up second, Nelson Chanity, and then Didi Leone, Timmy Judge, and Don Jolie picked up B Pro top three. It's pretty good. All the big names at the time.
Do you remember in our second video where we talked about the steroid thing with Pete and the? Did you know that? Did he ever race for GHP?
Yeah, he did eventually.
So yeah, but I found that a little. I found that a little interesting where Greg was upset about that, but he was on his team. It must have happened after he left GHP then.
Yeah, because I know that it was much later, like early '90s, okay. And I think that GHP was just his frame sponsor because I think he was still on Vans, but he had the GHP logo, so he was riding GHP. And it's weird that you brought that up because I don't know what their dynamic is for their relationship, because when Greg talks about Pete, he doesn't talk about him in a favorable way. Yeah. It's just like, hey, he was a cheater. I'm not afraid to say he was a cheater. He cheated. And I love Greg Hill. He's my favorite pro, obviously. And I met Pete Lonkarovich. He's a super nice guy. So it's like, man, I don't know. And you guys were kids at the time.
Yeah. The only reason I was going to cut that portion out and make a standalone video, and I was looking for pictures of Pete Lonkarovich, and I found the one where he has the GHP on his jersey. I'm all, whoa, wait a second. Why? I just thought that was interesting. That's all. I thought I thought I'd bring it up.
It's something that dawned on me later too. It really did. I go, man, I know I can picture the GHP logo on his jersey right here. Yeah. And I think he was still on Vans. Oh, by the way, that Vans contract, that was a pretty good paying contract apparently, because that's what Terry told me. I said, Terry, I noticed you were racing for Vans for a while. Was that a good deal? He goes, yeah, I was making like $70,000 a year racing for Vans. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. That's really good money.
What year did he race for Vans?
That was in the '90s era of racing.
Okay, all right.
Early '90s. So yeah, he did pretty well with them, because he talked a lot about the issues that he had with GT, and it was. I kind of felt bad for him in a way, because it felt like it was just a kid that just made a bad decision and then he lost the whole ride. Because Cherry definitely deserves to be at that level of racing, but I think he brought some weed on tour, and again, they found out and they told him, hey, he's got weed on tour, and that's it, Wow. But he wasn't the only one participating in it. I mean, he said he was selling it to the other pros. People were using it. I don't know. I'm only off what he said.
He could have sold everybody else out, but he didn't. He took the fall.
Hey, that's a good way of looking at it. He said, hey, you know what? I'll take it. I'll eat it. It's me.
Back in the early '80s, when Vans had the race team, I didn't realize, because I talked to Brian Gass, I talked to Ron House, and they were both on the Vans team. And you rode. It was the same team for the freestyle team as the race team, which I thought was kind of strange. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, Ron House told me that. He goes, I had to ride the half pipe, and then I went and raced. And Brian Gass said the same thing. They had it was one team for both disciplines. I thought that was interesting.
That's really interesting, and seems very impossible from today's standards. Can you imagine like somebody like Joris Dade here doing vert? No, not really. But it could happen. Yeah. Then check this out. We've got these are the rookie pros for 1984, and then Don Jolie here for Factory Raleigh. So he was a rookie that year, and he was 5'7", 160 pounds. He's about my size at the time. And then now the rest of the riders, I noticed they're probably averaging about 5'11" to 6 feet tall. So I know being a shorter pro had to be a challenge, but a lot of guys did it. Look at Roof, look at King. They all did.
Eddie King,
Didi Leone, factory Redline. He was in his rookie season as a pro. And then we had Richard Zagars, factory profile. He was in his rookie season.
What does DD stand for?
You know what? No idea. You'd have to ask him. I have no idea.
I saw it one time, like Dwayne David or something like that. Anyways, I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. Now I'm going to do my homework.
Trivia out there on the internet. What does DD stand for?
Exactly. So he was 19 at the time. Didi Leone, 6'2", 195. Big guy, right? How tall are you again?
6'2", a lot. Probably
yeah, so you were
6'2". I was 6'2", 310, like 2 years ago, and I got down to 265.
Nice, man.
So I'm so after I started boxing.
How old were you when you hit that 6'2" level, though?
I was almost out of my almost done with my senior year.
Damn, you were already 6'2" in your senior year.
Well, I grew into my senior year. The football coach saw me on the campus and goes, "Hey, where you been? Why come you didn't play football?" I go, "I did. I tried to come out. I was only 5'7". You wouldn't let me on the team." But yeah, I grew in my senior year.
I heard you talk about that before.
Yeah.
Rich Greenhouse was 5'11". Then we have Mike Polson. He was on his rookie season. Factory Schwinn. Man, Schwinn put some money into Mike. He's in all the advertisements. And he got a lot of magazine coverage. I'm going to comment on that really quick because I think I mentioned this in one of my videos, is that the riders that really put a lot of effort into their appearance seem to get a lot of coverage. Mike Polson being one of them, definitely Billy Griggs, Mike King, Harry Larry, even Gary Ellis, a lot of guys who really always made sure they were fitted when they showed up to the race. They're not going to show up in a flannel. They're always going to look factory.
Or jeans.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, I raced in 501s when I was too lazy to put my gear on. So, but I mean, that's the thing is like, they were always looking factory and they got a lot of coverage. At least that's what I'm starting to realize. I'm like, why is Mike Polson always in here? Well, one, he's fast as hell. And two, he presents himself professionally. So did King, so did Griggs, and the list kind of goes on and on. You can probably Gary Ellis was a pro at the time. He turned pro as well in the same year. There was a big rookie pro class going on.
Yep.
Man,
going back to the jeans real quick. I was talking to Kevin Dunsmore on a previous podcast, and we both made the same determination that if you were fast on a local race, you never showed up with your leathers on, except for me. I did it, but anybody that was really fast, you always showed up with jeans on. In my area, at least.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was almost like uncool to put your gear on.
Yes.
I love race gear. Getting ready to go to a race was part of the fun. It's almost
do you call them leathers or pants?
Well, we used to call them leathers. Now they're called kit. I got my race kit.
Okay.
They changed that to.
I still call them leathers, man.
Yeah, that's because we're old. Yeah. Nelson Kennedy turned pro. Also, he was 5'10". He was 20 years old at the time. So you can see, man, that B Pro was stacked in 1984. And
okay, do you remember our last video where I couldn't think of who that guy was with the mustache in the GT ad? That was Nelson Kennedy.
Damn it! Yeah. Now we figured it out.
I said DD Leone, and you're like, no, dude, he writes for Redline. I was trying to think of Nelson Kennedy. Yeah.
You were close. They were both the same age, both racing pros.
Close. They both rode BMX bikes.
Yeah, I only raced NBL for a short period of time, only because our track operator got the bright idea of us turning NBL, and then we switched back to ABA. There was just really no tracks or nationals that were on the West Coast. NBL is more that way. East Coast or whatever. So it didn't really work out. I mean, I like the race format of the NBL. I think it's race every moto. There's no transfer system thing, and I kind of like that because, well, yes and no. I don't know if you've ever raced total points versus you qualify out. You race total points. You're going to race all 3 rounds, including the main. And then in transfer system, you can finish first in the first round and just be done and wait for the main. So the problem with that is you get cold and stiff waiting to race again. When you're doing all 3 rounds, you get more track time and you're warm, you're ready to roll all the time. But it also takes away the nerves, man, when you transfer out really quick. At least
Well,
I thought so.
that's a misnomer because I raced both ABA and NBL. Because in Azusa we had an ABA track and an NBL track. They were about 2 blocks away from each other. But
Okay.
if you were on an ABA gate and there was only 3 or 4 riders on an ABA gate, you were racing for points anyways. No one was transferring out. You had to race all 3 motos. So
Yeah, total. Yeah.
yeah. So it was both, and in my area, that was not uncommon where there was no, there was no transferring out. You race all 3 motos. But yeah, at a
Let me get you.
national, absolutely.
Let me get your opinion on this, and this has always been my opinion. It's if I race local and I'm only racing 3 guys, right? Versus I'm racing 6 to 8 guys. I feel like I was always faster in a big group. I don't know what it was in the big group because you're pushing to get ahead of everybody a little bit harder. At least maybe it might be mental for me, but when it was like 3 guys and we're just wide out, it didn't feel I didn't have that same sensation, and I felt slower. And I don't know how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, and if you had a good lead on the guy in second, you just sat down and turned around and looked and watched him behind you, or the guy in second or the guy in third knows that he's got the third, so he coasts across the finish line and looks back at the guy in fourth. So yeah, it eliminates some of the competition, but I guess if you're tired and you're in the lead, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So if you're in fifth or fourth place, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, if I go onto the moto sheets and I only see there's a couple guys, I've got mixed feelings. So I go, well, it's going to be an easy day, and then I think, oh, it's going to be kind of not as fun because racing a bunch of guys is a lot of fun. It's a little more dangerous, but it's a lot of fun. And
Dude,
also,
I was watching a podcast with somebody, and they turned pro because they needed was it on the Dirty Knobs where they were telling a story about they needed a third pro to run a pro gate, and it was like 17x. He said, okay, I volunteered to become pro. I thought that was kind of funny. I'll be pro today, so you guys can have a class.
Yeah. Hey, we're about done with this magazine, but I was going to bring up one other thing about the racing format is the one thing I really, really think that they should bring back is the trophy dash. Because as I've been watching all these old races, there's always a trophy dash. And they take, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, put them all on the gate at one time. And I guess that's kind of equivalent to a Pro-Am is today, because, you can do 14 and over Pro-Am, 16 and over Pro-Am, whatever. But I like the whole concept behind the trophy dash. It's just take all the best of the best for the day and just let them kind of go at it. I think it's just an interesting concept because I don't know. I know age has a lot to do with it. A 13-year-old is not going to beat a 17-year-old. But in today's sport, man, I don't know. These kids are fast. So I think it'd be interesting.
I was talking to Justin Shepard about this, and we were talking about trophy dashes, and I asked him. I said, "Dude, I've never even seen a trophy dash. I've never been in a trophy dash. What the hell is a trophy dash?" Because they were talking about bringing a trophy dash to Dirty Fest next year, and I was like, "What the hell is a trophy? I don't even know what that is. Is it like an open?" And he goes, "No. So the trophy dash is whoever wins class for 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Is that how it works?"
Yeah. They take the older experts and they do one race for the cash or for the trophy, I should say, trophy dash.
So what age groups do they normally do?
When I was watching some of the Jag World Championship races, because there's a lot of those on YouTube, it appears to be anywhere from 12 to 13. I'm going to say probably 13 years old and up. So all the different expert classes and up. And so it was weird. I saw one in particular which it was strange because they had all these factory dudes in an 82 Jag World Championship in the trophy dash, which included like Richie Anderson. All the big dudes were in there, right? There was one guy that was like a 17 novice in there, and he got in it somehow. and he ended up getting like, I think, second or third because everybody fell. So you just don't know what's going to happen in these
Dude,
scenarios.
I thought I was bad. I thought I was a 16 beginner, a 17 novice. Holy shit, man! That dude waited a long time to start racing.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
thought I had the record, but a 17 novice. Wow, that's old. Unless
Yeah,
he was sandbagging.
which is possible. Based on his riding style, I wouldn't think so. I watched that video really closely. I go, yeah. I sat there and I was thinking, what would I be thinking if I was this guy? You know, I got all these factory dudes, all the guys that are in the magazine surrounding me, and I'm like a novice. You know, I mean, you just embrace it, I guess. You're like, well, shit, I'm just gonna do the best I can, and he did. He
Yep.
finished pretty well. And it's
Yep.
somewhere in my videos. I'd have to dig it up, but
Oh,
anyway, man,
nice,
I
dude.
took up an hour of your time, so I appreciate you.
Dude,
Chatting.
this is what I think this is my favorite one that we've done, and I want to thank everybody that stayed with us and watched. And the one comment that we have, thanks a lot, Marcel Lima. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. As the host of the BMX podcast, I do appreciate you coming by. If you think that I'm doing a good job, subscribe. If not, subscribe anyways. And don't forget to check out Danny P. What's your channel's name again?
Danny Pena, BMX Racing.
Danny Pena BMX Racing, and he will go through the magazines from cover to cover, page to page. I mean, he even reads the table of contents, for Christ's sake. Good, very, very thorough stuff. Danny, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining me, man. Until next time, everybody, thanks for watching. Until next week, the track is now closed. Peace out. Later.
Yes.